Hey everyone, my name is Jonas. Welcome to the Tomtau Coffee channel. You might be seeing more of me in the future as I would like to do more English content. Today we are at the World of Coffee Copenhagen, amazing event, enjoying it a lot. And I had an opportunity to sit down with Edwin Noreña, legendary farmer and owner of Campo Hermoso in Colombia. And I'm really looking forward to make an interview with him and find out more about what do you do, what makes your farm so legendary and well known in the coffee industry and in competition stage. So yeah. I'm really curious, how did you get into coffee? Like, is that in your family or was it a random thing, random encounter? What inspired you to get into the coffee industry?
Thanks, Jonas, and thanks for inviting me to this program. I'm fourth generation coffee growers in Colombia. My father, my grandfather made coffee, but in the sea market. Mm-hmm. So I started in coffee in 2022. Mm-hmm. My father dies and I start with the farms, with the business, the family, learning about agronomic techniques, planting some new varieties. But I opened my eyes to the specialty coffee and the specialty market in 2014.
Mm-hmm. So in 2014 you started producing specialty coffee, or you first tasted specialty coffee?
Yes, my first experience with specialty coffee was with Ethiopian coffee. Mm-hmm. I remember that this coffee tastes like very fruity and very unique profile. Mm-hmm. So I really opened my mind to know more about specialty coffee. At the moment I didn't know anything about specialty coffee, so I start to learn more and more about. I start to learn about cupping, mm-hmm. about varieties, about the profile that the market was developing in that moment. So I start cupping in 2015, mm-hmm. and in 2017 was my first participation in Cup of Excellence in Colombia. Mm-hmm. And then I started to cup this competition in 2017, 2018 at Tere.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Good that you're mentioning Cup of Excellence, because you used to be head judge of Cup of Excellence, right? So yes. You are not just skilled farmer and skilled in processing, but also in cupping and judging at the Cup of Excellence level. So hats off before that. It's really nice.
That experience gave me the opportunity to know more about the trend of the market, mm-hmm. because all the cupping session I was talking with the judge, with the Asian people, with all the judges that was participating in this competition, and they tell me more about the trend of the market in this place.
Mm-hmm. That I think that you are very good at, to reacting to the trends in the market, and you are not scared to do new things. So what I'm really curious about, because I'm here in the Europe brewing my coffee happily and really have no idea what's happening in the origin. So what are the current challenges at the origin level in Colombia specifically? Is it the age of the farmers? Is it the climate change? Is it, I don't know, you tell me.
I think that one of the most important challenge in Colombia is the age of the coffee growers. Mm-hmm. The media age in Colombia for the growers are around 55 years.
Average age is 55 years.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. So the challenge is invite to the young people to know more about coffee, to show all the possibilities and the opportunity that the specialty coffee can give them. Mm-hmm. So I started in coffee in the academic part of the business too. Training coffee growers, training young people, and in that way we try to continue with this magical work, because Colombia is a coffee country too, but we are losing more and more coffee growers for the age. And the other challenge is the climate change too. You know, right now we have some difficulties with the quality of the cherries for the climate change. So we need to think about new crops or new lands to grow coffee, because the agriculture in Colombia are changing the altitude. So for example, lands in 1,500 meters right now, you don't have the possibility to grow coffee in this area. You need to looking for more altitude. Lands of more than 2,000 meters right now are good for plain coffee. And the past was so different.
Is it also pushing growers to come up with new varieties, maybe crossbreed, to create the varieties that are more suitable to this climate?
Yes, and if you see the Colombia scene, talking about variety, for example, Colombia has 90% of a specific hybrid variety called Castillo. And we are looking to introduce new varieties, you know, for example, the relation between the geisha, Panama, and the competition. I think that Colombia could be the same, looking for the best variety in our country. So that's the reason why we are thinking in the future, planting new variety, introducing new variety in our farms, looking for the best coffee for not only for competition, coffee for brew, coffee for all of the customers that will enjoy our coffees.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like 5 years ago it was a lot about processing, and now it's a lot about new varieties, discovering new species. We've seen a skyrocket of pink bourbon, Chiroso, ají, and stuff like that. And for me, it's really exciting to taste all of these different varieties and all of their characters. So I can't wait for what's coming in the future. Maybe you can elaborate on that, like what varieties can we see in the future? Because just so people understand, it takes a lot of time to develop new variety, right? You plant a tree and you have cherries maybe in 3 years, maybe even more?
Yes, right now, you know, in the industry, in the market, the processing new advanced fermentation are in trend. But I think that for the future, we need to think more about the genetic, the beauty of the terroir, of the genetic. So we are trying to plant new varieties. And in Colombia, we have a very wild variety. This kind of variety was generated by spontaneous, talking about Bourbon ají, Ombligon, Papayo. So if we are going in that way, we need to select the best seeds, get the best result.
I was lucky enough to cup with you and hear your presentation last week in the Coffee Quest lab. There were a lot of interesting varieties and processes, so let's focus on Campo Hermoso. What do you guys do, how it started, how you are developing the processes, what do you focus on? I want to hear all about it.
Yes, Campo Hermoso is our farm. We have 25 hectares. In this farm, we are focused in pink bourbon variety, Sidra bourbon variety, and geisha variety. And we are planting this variety, talking about the Sidra and the pink bourbon, because these two varieties has a high productive potential in a good quality way to the cup and a good quality, physical quality too. So in this farm, we are focused in these two varieties. And we continue with the first crop of geisha. We planted geisha in 2016 in Campo Hermoso, but right now we are trying to put the geisha variety in a highest altitude in Colombia, in a new farm in Valle del Cauca. You know, we are thinking about the future, about the new varieties in a high altitude levels. And in 2017, we start with the new processing. But at the beginning, we only make long or stank fermentation without oxygen, carbonic maceration, and all of this kind of way to improve quality. But we was seeing that the trend are changing year by year. So in 2019, we start making some co-fermented coffee and put it some another material into the fermentation. And right now we are working with hops from beer, putting into the tanks for fermentation, some fruit, putting in the tanks, dehydrated fruit too, and the results are on the table. If you remember, we tried some very unique profile in our copy session in Amsterdam. So, we know that it's a trend. We know that it's very controversial right now, but I think that the most important is be very transparent and tell to the customer what are we putting on into the tank, because it's a issue about healthy, and this kind of coffee are for a very specific market.
And I have so much respect for that whenever I saw somebody asking you what do you do to this coffee, you give them exact answer. How many fruits, dehydrated fruits, what you did, and that's the way how we should move forward. Yes. Be transparent. That's the key word in the coffee industry, right? In specialty coffee industry. Yes, so, yeah. And
at the end, it's the customer that take the decision to drink this kind of coffee, but maybe the co-fermented, this funky fermentation, advanced fermentation, or in the other way, all the classic stuff with the beauty of the variety in a very clean profile, full washed coffee, or some honey or natural without fermentation. We try to give all the possibility to our customers.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. What do you tell to people that says that co-fermentation should not be part of the industry?
When I started with co-fermented coffee, we was thinking about the controversial, but day by day we are seeing that the more and more customers are requesting this kind of coffee. Yeah. So if the market are developing this kind of profile, we will do.
Yeah. We see it in beer industry. They ferment with fruit as well.
Yeah,
we drink sours.
Yes,
we love it. So, it's definitely interesting segment. And I think what is very important to tell the people is that it doesn't work like you threw some fruit in the fermentation tank and it tastes like fruit. There's a lot of development, and you are skilled microbiologist, right? There's a lot of work behind it. It's not that simple. It is a form of craftsmanship, and there's a lot of time and work put into that.
Yes,
so it tastes good.
It's important to know that, for example, if you put fresh strawberry into the tank, the result aren't strawberry profile. Yeah. The science don't work in that way. But if you want to improve the profile in strawberry flavors, we are using dehydrated fruit, put it into the tank. That's the way that we have this high level of flavors in fruits or in hops, for example. But we are using some microorganisms too to put into the first or second stage of fermentation, and the result is really great. Improve floral notes, improving more texture, depends on the way that you are thinking for the fermentation, in the alcoholic way or the lactic way, depends on the profile that you are trying to do.
Super interesting. So it's not that simple, and it is form of craftsmanship from my point of view. Okay, I have some more questions, what are the successes of Campo Hermoso, because I have seen Sasha Sestic visited you, many other skilled barista champions.
I don't know. We try to do all with passion. It's important make coffee with passion. It's it's the secret. I think it is the secret. And I don't know, we are making some great coffee and exceptional coffee, and the most important at the customer, I enjoy it. So we are making some kind of a specific fermentation for competition lot, another for regular or more regular customers. And you know, one of the most beautiful things in a specialty coffee is the directly relation with the customer, with the barista, and we are opening our doors in our farm to show to the customer, to the barista, what are we doing with the fermentation, with the variety, and in that way we are enjoying more and more make great coffee for the industry.
Nice. You mentioned baristas, you mentioned customers, roasteries. Obviously, majority of them, or maybe none of them, are in Colombia. Right now you are in Europe, you are in World of Coffee Copenhagen. How do you like the specialty scene here in Europe, and what do you think about it? And does it give you something as well? Some insights of the roastery behavior? What are the trends? What do you think about the European market?
I think that the European market in a specialty coffee way are growing and growing more and more. In the past, we saw more preference for the classic profile, for the classic style. But right now, the market in Europe are requesting more and more this kind of advantage fermentation. And I can see more customers enjoy this kind of coffee in the north part of the Europe, but at the south, the customer continue being more classic.
Like
more,
Italy, Spain.
Yes, Italy, Spain, Portugal, you know. But at the same time, they are looking for new experience. So, you know, all the trends have a specific top. And I think that we are in this moment, in the top of the trend.
Nice. What was your favorite country in Europe so far?
I don't know all the countries in Europe, but I really like the north countries.
Oh, yeah.
Netherlands, Germany, Denmark too. I really like the biculture in this country. Yeah. It's really amazing. I really like it because I try to go to my farm all day in bicycle. So I feel like in home, you know, going to the expo in bicycle and see all the culture around there.
Nice, nice. Okay. My question is, what inspires you? Because obviously you are putting a lot of work into what you do. You love it. You are excited about it. But what is the inspiration? What keeps you going?
You know, my family first, God, obviously, my daughters, and all the, you know, all the passion that my father and grandfather had in the coffee way.
So you are carrying the legacy of coffee family.
Yes, and I hope to continue doing coffee all of my life, and I dream with my daughters too, my childs, and I hope they continue with this beautiful activity. You know.
Wow. I must say, just meeting you and having conversation is inspiring for me. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your invitation and for show to the people what are we doing.
Yeah, I hope many people is gonna see that and taste your coffee maybe.
Yes,
or maybe visit you.
Please taste our coffee, try them, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I have two very short last questions. First is your favorite book. Can be coffee book, can be outside of the coffee. Do you have favorite book?
I'm reading right now a new book, and I feel so inspired by it. It's called Crear. in Spanish, something that I created. It's from one of the co-founder of Apple, and he tell us all the challenge that they need to focus to get successful with the Apple.
business.
Yes, with the Apple. Yes.
Nice.
I love the Alchemist book from Paulo Coelho, and get me so inspired too.
Nice. Last question. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Favorite directors, more
Okay.
than movies. I really like Martin Scorsese, director. Maybe this guy from the last Batman version, Christopher Nolan. It's another director of one of my favorites. Thinking about a movie, maybe The Orange Clock. This very classic movie.
Clockwork Orange from Kubrick.
Yes, for
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Maybe The Godfather, the first part. I really,
Legendary.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
but
amazing. Well, if you want to say something to the viewers, now's your chance.
I really want to give you the best of our coffees. We are trying to introduce more coffee in the coffee industry in the Europe. I hope you enjoy your coffee. Please try your coffee when you see your name in a packet. I think that will be a great experience for you. And thanks for all the beautiful things.
Edwin, thank you one more time. It's really pleasure, and people like you inspire me to keep pushing the coffee industry as well.
Thanks, Jonas.
Thank you.
It's a really pleasure to me. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank
you a
you.
lot.
You guys, please subscribe to the channel. It keeps us going, creating stuff like that. And please try to outreach and try some of the Edwin's coffees because they are amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.